Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of December 27th. Well, I hope everybody had a good Christmas or Hanukkah or however it is that you may have celebrated, and I hope everybody has a safe and happy New Year. Um, that being said, I guess we got a lot to talk about, so let's just get into it. Before we do, I do want to stress that this report is for current conditions as of today's date. Many factors can cause ice conditions to vary, so please be careful no matter where you fish. For up-to-date ice conditions, please feel free to call the shop at 608 241 4225, and we'll tell you what we're hearing around town. Or if you run into some sketchy ice out there yourself, please call the shop and let us know, or post in the comments below so we can pass that info on. Just a few quick announcements to go over. DNR reminds us that muskie season closes statewide December 31st. That is Tuesday, right? Yeah, and New Year's Eve. And so not a lot of folks ice fishing anymore, but it is a season and it does close. When one season closes, another opens. Inland trout early catch and release season opens January 4th. So that is next Saturday. As a trout angler, I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm sure we'll be talking more about it in next week's report. The Yahara Fishing Club, great group. Kids Ice Fishing Day, great event. January 25th, Brittingham Park. Get down there if you got a kid that you think might want to get into ice fishing. They get a free rod, reel, and our shop here is happy to donate the bait to that great event. They got hot dogs for kids and folks on hand to show you the ropes. So yeah, check it out January 25th, and I'll be mentioning that right up until the event as well. I released Pat Westberg's presentation he gave as part of our winter seminar series, Patrick's Tip-Up Tactics, we're calling it. Pat did a great job. He's very knowledgeable ice angler overall, but he was focusing on tip-ups for this presentation. And yeah, some really valuable information. Go get yourself a cup of coffee and snuggle in and listen to Pat tell you about ice fishing. But I do want to thank Pat for coming through. Also want to thank Brian Zucchi, who did a great job. And then Jim Kusuda also did a great job, and I will be posting his presentation probably next week. I still got to get it off my phone, but I think that pretty much does it for that. A little bit of shop news. I'm always preaching about safety stuff. Get yourself some ice picks. Spud bars are great. Rope is great. One thing I forgot and hadn't been mentioning, creepers. Pretty essential part, really, of ice safety. You don't want to fall down. It's not fun. But sometimes it could be serious. Just up here on Cherokee last week, a guy hit his head so hard they had to call the ambulance. And I mean, it was a whole mess. I guess he's still in the hospital or he just got out. So, I mean, a week in the hospital from hitting your head, you can wear some creepers and lessen the chance that's going to happen because you never really do know when it's going to happen. And of course, we got these on the pegs here at the shop, so swing by and get yourself fixed up with those. The door posters, we just have the Marshall Fisheries Festival on January 17th and 18th. If you have a fishery or other outdoor event you want to promote, you can put it up here on the door. A lot of folks see that stuff. And then we also have the poster for the Kids Fishing Day, January 25th. I think that's it then. We can get into the report. Weather-wise, this week we had a pretty mild week here in Madison with highs in the mid-30s. Looks like rain off and on today, but it's a light rain and temps in the 40s through the weekend. But the good news is it looks like things are supposed to cool down as we get into next week. And so we'll see what this rain does, but I don't think we're going to lose a lot of ice through the weekend and hopefully start making some ice this next week. Ice conditions are probably 80% of the calls we get here at the shop these days, and we try to stay on top of it as best as we can. So I guess I'm just going to start off by going over like what I'm hearing for ice conditions, and then we'll swing back and do the report. But Cherokee up here has about 6 inches of ice on right now. It's generally safe for foot travel. Mendota itself, there have been a few people up here on the North Bay. I've heard as much as 7 inches of ice, but I've also heard of some pretty sketchy ice. So if you go out there, do be careful in the North Bay area. Otherwise, there isn't much on Mendota itself other than Marshall Park Lagoon has some ice over there. And basically that's it. There was some skim ice on Warner, probably University Bay. I'm sure the rain and warm and everything's going to take care of that if there's any left at all. Pretty much the same thing on Monona. Main Lake is wide open. You got your shallow bays. Weechawbuck, formerly known as Squaw Bay, has ice on it. I heard 2 to 4 over there. I'd imagine Turville is the same, although I haven't heard any reports it iced up about the same time as Weechawbuck. So I imagine it's about the same kind of 2 to 4 inches of ice out there. Monona Bay's had ice for a couple weeks. I heard the bay itself has 5 or 6 inches. The South Triangle actually has 6 to 8 inches, and the North Triangle has 2 to 4. So and especially on the North Triangle, if you're going to be fishing near these bridges, do use caution. That ice is bound to be pretty thin. Lake Wingra has like 4 inches of ice, I heard. The area below the dam here is probably pretty sketchy. So I don't know. I would avoid that. It was sketchy the last time I looked at it. I haven't heard of people fishing over there recently. Um, and this rain isn't going to help. Upper Mud has 6 to 8 inches of ice, and hopefully this rain doesn't mess with the access on the trail there, the path to get back. Whoops. And then Wabisa is completely iced over. So I've heard anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of ice. I imagine, out in the middle is more of your 4, and closer to shore is more of your 6. I know Lake Farm's got like 6 on it, and Goodland. I'm not sure how much ice is down there, but I know people are fishing out there. I have heard of ATVs out on Wabisa. Not something I would do personally, but to each his own, I guess. Fish camp, Lake Kiganza also is capped over with ice, has 4 to 6 inches out there. I've also heard of ATVs out there, but do use caution um, anywhere you go with an ATV, especially this time of year. So, oh yeah, and the Stoughton ditches down here, we got plenty of ice down there, shallow water. So let's loop back and we'll talk about fishing. So I'll just start with saying, not generally a lot to talk about other than folks are really only fishing the few areas of ice that I just mentioned outside of the consistent action Monona Bay usually offers. I would call most of the action around the area spotty in most places. Since we're just fishing shallow water right now, it's mostly a bluegill bite with maybe a crappie here and there. Spikes, waxies, and plastics are all working well. And like most times of the year, if you can find good weeds, you'll likely find fish. Folks running tip-ups with shiners have been seeing good action for bass and pike, and a few walleye are being picked up with medium shiners, small suckers, and black-tailed chubs working well for those fish. But we'll get into some details here. So up on Cherokee, it seems like the action's kind of slowed up there, or maybe folks are just sick of fishing up there and they're not fishing anymore. But I was up there on Sunday and did all right. It started out a little slow in the afternoon, picked up closer to dark like it normally does. So the fish are still in there, but not a lot of folks fishing up that way. Tip-up action up there has been consistent. I haven't run tip-ups for the last week or so, but I saw a lot of folks running for them when I've been out there. Like I said, North Bay has ice. Folks are fishing out there. They're getting some walleyes and some pike. Mostly, I think, just staying close to shore. Like a lot of the people that live kind of over in this area have been the ones accessing the ice, and yeah, I think they're just staying close to shore. You get in the channel and the current out here, that ice can get pretty sketchy. So anyway, like I said, Marshall Park has ice. Folks have been getting on there. It's been a little sketchy, but they've been getting fish too. I've heard about a few bluegills and some pike action. Nothing really necessarily to write home about. Otherwise, yeah, the rest of Lake Mendota is pretty much wide open. Hopefully, this cooler weather this coming week takes care of that. Down on Lake Monona, same thing, wide open pretty much everywhere except for in some of the shallow bays. So Weechobuck Bay here, like I said, 2 to 4 inches of ice. If you want to venture out there, do be careful. I've heard about mostly just small walleye and pike. Which is typical this time of year. I haven't heard about the panfish bite, but I hear there are good weeds in there, so panfish should be picking up or going well, and I just haven't heard about it. Turville Bay, don't know, haven't heard any reports off Turville or of anybody fishing or anything. Monona Bay, like I said, the star of the show, probably the star of all of Wisconsin, really. Could be the best ice fishing spot in the state. Just tons of bluegills in there and easy access. It's been getting pounded. The ice is, 5-6 inches thick. Access has improved since last week, where there was some sketchy ice along Brittingham Beach and stuff. But yeah, folks are getting fish in there, and yeah, it's just an incredible fishery. I don't know where all the bluegills come from, but they are. Lake Monona is just an absolute bluegill factory. Like I said, South Triangle here, they're getting some crappies down here, 6 to 8 inches of ice. Action down there has been spotty. Also getting crappies, some walleyes, and of course a lot of bluegills in the North Triangle too. And like I said, do be careful if you venture close to those bridges. Lake Wingra over here, a lot of small bluegills in there. Some bass can be caught on tip-ups. There's a few nice crappies and some nice perch if you can find them, but it's mostly a lot of small bluegills. You get some pike on tip-ups too, and maybe a muskie. Let's see. I guess, yeah, I haven't heard much of any of the bays over here, and then we got Upper Mud. So Upper Mud has been fishing well. If you're tip-up fishing, a lot of flags flying out there. The jigging action has been slow from most of the folks I talked to, and like I said in the intro, hopefully this rain we get doesn't muck up the path that goes back there, because that can be it's already kind of a bummer walking back there. But then if it's all muddy, it's almost a deal breaker. So unless you got knee boots or something. Lake Wabisa, getting some fish up here at Lake Farm. You got to find weeds, which I hear are spotty. Also, some tip-up action happening up there, but nothing that I've heard that sounds particularly incredible. Walleye anglers are venturing out into the main basin. I haven't heard much in the way of reports. A little bit of walleye action down here on the breaks near Babcock and Bible Camp. It's been slow up near Hog Island, from what I heard. Some folks getting down into the South Bay here. I've heard that the weeds down there are also not great, even though it's usually all weeds. But anyway, the action down there, the little action I've heard about down there has been slow. So, but yeah, a lot of folks getting out on Wabisa, and they are using ATVs, and they are getting out and driving around ATVs, but not something I would necessarily recommend just yet. Same thing down in Kegonsa. It's capped over 4 to 6 inches of ice out there. They are running ATVs, but I don't know. I would let that maybe wait until after things firm up again a little bit here. All right, and we're back here. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Madison chain. Down on Lake Koshkonong, I hear they do have ice. Folks are running ATVs. They're getting walleyes and crappies. I would encourage folks to be careful down there as well. It sounds like, as much as 8, I think I even saw maybe 10 inches of ice, but a fair amount of ice anyway, and they're running ATVs. But there were some areas that are pretty new ice, so do be careful if you're down there on ATVs. Other stuff in the neighborhood, Beaver Dam Lake has a great crappie and walleye bite going on out there. Don't ask me about locations because I don't know, but I do know folks are going up there and having success finding fish. Has anybody been on Devil's Lake yet? I'd be curious to know. I haven't heard any reports, and so I would love to hear about that. Otherwise, on the Wisconsin River, not much going on the river itself. Of course, the backwaters and sloughs and stuff like that should all be pretty safe for foot traffic, at least. And do be careful out there though. There's a lot of springs and stuff that feed these backwater sloughs and that. So do be careful. It is fun to get out there and kind of explore some of those. Otherwise, up here on Lake Wisconsin, we've got Moon Valley Bay there, all the little bays. They're getting some good panfish. The Lake Wisconsin's been froze over for like 3 weeks. I heard they have at least 6 inches of ice across the whole lake. I don't know about a lot of folks venturing out into the kind of main lake area. I imagine they are. I haven't heard any reports on it though. The reports I've heard out of the shallow bays though are that if the action's good, it can be good, but the fish tend to be running a little on the small side, so you got to sort through them to find some keepers. Further up the river, I guess we got Petenwell and Castle Rock. I haven't heard much out of them. I know Harley was up here to Petenwell looking for some crappies and struggled a bit up there. So there's that. Then we got Mississippi River. Not many folks fish in the river itself, but backwater sloughs and stuff like that. And I imagine, I don't know if like any of the places in DeSoto Bay or any of this main river stuff has ice. I imagine it does, and folks are fishing it, but I haven't heard any reports. I have heard about some folks exploring some of the sloughs and finding perch and all kinds of cool fish, good fishing back there, and that also is fun if you want to get out of town and have a little adventure. Otherwise, over to Milwaukee, the harbors are not froze. People are fishing from shore and getting fish, and they're also getting fish up in the rivers. So browns and steelhead are up there. If you head over, the one thing that's going to hinder your efforts is going to be shelf ice, or actually, I bet the river's capped over in a few spots. I was just over there. I should have looked, but anyway, if you can find some current, those areas should be fishable. Kletch, Estabrook, stuff like that. And browns and steelhead are in the rivers in good numbers. The water's pretty low right now. We'll see what the rain does, but probably won't do much. But look for deeper holes and fish colorful, flashy streamers if you're swinging flies. Otherwise, buggy nymphs and stuff like that. If you're drifting through runs and stuff. If you're running spinning gear, spawn sacks under floats, spinners, and jerk baits will work well also for those fish on the gear side of things. Like I said in the intro, that trout is opens on January 4th, so pretty excited about that. Winter, though, for a lot of folks is tying season, and instead of the Happy Fly Day, I'm just going to remind folks we got our tying section up, so get in here, get some stuff, and start tying. It's a great hobby and a lot of fun. So I guess that pretty much does it for the report. I do want to thank you for tuning in. I want to encourage you to be safe out there. I want to wish you a Happy New Year. And like I said, call the shop 241-4225 if you have any questions or want to report any ice conditions yourself or comment below. Otherwise, Happy New Year to everybody, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.